Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Unicorn Trajectory podcast. Our guest today is Alain Briez, founder of the Will Ventures and ex-CEO at Reddot Growth, a global go-to-market agency that was acquired. Hello, Alain. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Can you introduce yourself to the audience, please?
Yeah, of course. So my name is Alain. I'm from a small island in the south of France. So I co-founded it with another French person living in Asia. We're like a whole gang of French living abroad. And we scaled this agency where we were doing is very specifically go-to-market. So whenever it's for global expansion mostly or things like that. And so we scaled the agency to 7 figures in revenue in 14 years. We missed the million in 1 year.
14 months,
we took like
Not
14 months.
Yeah.
14 months. Sorry if I mistake. Yeah, so we achieved like the 7 figure in 14 months, and after the second year of activity, we've been acquired by our main competitor, like a bigger company in France. And then now I'm here, and I do so the Will Venture. So it's basically it's a startup studio where we create and incubate projects around the generative AI businesses, mostly SaaS products, and then we hire CEOs and we inject money in order to help them grow and to scale the companies. That's the big idea.
Thank you. So first, let's start with the clear definitions. In your view, what is effective go-to-market?
So go-to-market is so for the people who really start from zero, go-to-market is going to be the global like strategy that you will use in order to promote your business, get in contact and generate revenue. And an effective go-to-market, I think it really depends on the stage, but effective go-to-market strategy will be a data-driven identification of the channels that actually drive business performance. So the way we used to do this with the company that we work with in my previous business was really to do a lot of experimentation on this and to validate with data actually what were the different channels that work effectively. Does that answer the question?
Yes, it will lead to my next questions because that is a very, let's say, a very structured approach of go-to-markets. And let's say if you are startup founders and you started the company from zero and you try different ways, not the structured way that you just explained, but different ways, let's say organic growth, to get the company to $3 to $5 million in revenue, just like scrambling around and trying everything. So what are the architectural change in terms of, for example, setting up the growth team or how to change the thinking about growth and go to market to get the company to, let's say, 10 or $20 million in revenue and beyond?
Actually, when you ask this question, you mentioned something that is very important. That is often that we don't speak enough in business. So when it comes to either go-to-market or even growth in a more broad sense of the term, we tend to have a lot of information out there, and we forget that each stage of a company has actually different realities. And this is something that is very important because when you start your startup from zero, your go-to-market machine, like your go-to-market system, will definitely be very different from a company that you scale to $1 million in revenue and to like several $1 million in revenue. And so I would say that when you're at the zeros, the first thing you want to make sure is what you're doing matters. Because a lot of things that we do are just hallucination about our market assumption, and they don't have grounded reality. So first, I think the paradigm of early stage startups is really into the quick and dirty experimentation, and really to figure out the one key driver of revenue, like the one main channel. You have a lot of people who try to set up like very complex system when they're starting from zero, while actually I think from zero to $1 million. So obviously everything I say as a variable, which is the type of market and type of business you do. We cannot address deep tech the same way we're going to address like B2B software or so. But if I have to give like a general rule for the practice is so on the early stage, what we want is really to identify what is the key offer, the key driver of growth. And for this, we need a lot of like a fast experimentation that can be early. Then after, we're going to enter a phase where you need to stabilize your system before you even try to expand or add complexity. What you need to add is a stability. So then we will enter a phase where we are going to optimize the result to make sure that the profitability start to show, because it's okay not to be profitable in your early draft of your go-to-market strategy. But then once you validate your offer, you validate that the contact with your market is positive, then you need to answer the question of, okay, how now we get profitable and how we have a stable system that help us to fuel like the next stage of the growth of the company. So in here, we are going to be more in the phase of stabilization. And then after, at some point, once you identify your offer and you identify your main driver of performance, you're going to start to cap, because each driver of revenue is just like that efficient at some point. You're going to cap when you hit the roof of what is possible to do with this specific like system. And then at this moment, you need to ask yourself the question of channel diversification on the first place. And once you have a dispositif that is very efficient, then after you enter a phase where you want to think about diversification within your business. Like, so then it's not really acquisition kind of question, like acquisition strategy kind of question, but this we're going to tap into a strategic business decision, whether we are going to complexify the product, add more features, add like an ecosystem of like interconnected services, or then we're going to go for global expansion and address new markets. And when we're going to do this, the right way to actually do that is because it will be too easy to just copy and paste what we're doing. Sadly, it doesn't work that way, because when you enter new markets, some markets have like similar criteria, but some are way more complex. So in this, we are going to have to start from zero and to have like autonomous like we say like task force in order to crack the 0 to 1 on each market that we're going to address, and then start from zero on there.
Yes, I agree with you. And especially you mentioned a point that is very important, that the different stage of a company is a different realities. And when we scale beyond the mark of $3 to $5 million, actually a business model question first. It's like it's very strategic, right? Because in the beginning, you think of like a problem on the markets, and then you create a product to solve the problems, and then it will hit a cap at some point. I'll give you a very tangible example. So for example, I'm helping an edtech, educational tech companies to scale, right? So in the beginning, they discover like a niche markets of selling online courses to art students, and they're doing very well, like a few $1 million a year. But then they just hit this cap, right? And so now it's actually before global expansion or anything like that, it will be like in a year time. What I can see that they've built like a very good technology, but then the business model now, actually I'm switching it to an upskilling platform for corporates. So selling art courses to art students and selling upskilling platform to corporates are two very like different things, and it has nothing to do with go-to-market yet. But at a strategic like business like strategic level, this thing hits the caps, and there are ways to expand it into different verticals. But to scale it to like a unicorn or value at a few $1 billion, you really need to look at, okay, what is the vast like problems on the markets, and there's no solution that address it very well, right? At least in these, I haven't found any good enterprise like upskilling that can keep up with like AI skill and sales skills and marketing skill, and it just get updated like very quickly and keep my staff like up to date. And then so it's like I easy spend like 6 months with the founders to diversify, not only diversify, but to expand the visions of the company and what it's going to do in the futures. And then it will take us another 6 months to build out these products. And then it's B2B products. And then at that point in time, then we'll go to markets and then we'll choose the channels and everything. It's not like we're just like, okay, let's just scale the go-to markets, right?
Okay. Yeah, at some point there is only that much you can do with marketing. I mean, I wouldn't say marketing strategy, because marketing strategy for me is broad. Sometimes we talk about marketing strategy and the people are a little bit too focused on like the advertising or the acquisition system or even the retention system. But for me, marketing is a bit more broader than this. For me, whenever you design your offer, you design your different models, for me, it's already marketing. Marketing is like whatever gets something like a tangible, and how you get it in contact with the market through like even the business model. But yeah, but in terms of like acquisition, advertising, even like no matter what you want to do, there is some point that it takes really a work on the core business model, and the diversification of the activities if you hit some limits in your addressable market. So yeah, you have this way. Actually, this way is a very interesting way to kind of coming from your core skill and then diversify the type of the different way to put it into music and to value the core skill that you have. Or another way that is also interesting is, as I said, to create like an ecosystem of service that will address the same core customer that you already have inside. So, for example, for the art, you have this way to go to B2B, or you can think like, okay, we're selling art course. So, what is the ecosystem that we can put around our key customer that we already have in the base, in order to sell them, like to cross-sell them with different things that are connected in terms of value to what we sell in the first place. So it can be like, I don't know, material, or can be like events, or yeah. So that's agree on that.
Yeah, absolutely. There's always a few like scaling plan on the table. And we're not killing the art thing, but we're adding this thing because like because I need to come up with something like very scalable, right?
Yeah, totally.
So what is the most common mistake you see that early stage founder make when they go to markets in your experience?
Oh, there is one that is very interesting that come to my mind, which is they're like putting way too much value. They attribute way too much value on their hypothesis and the things they think they understand by observing the market on a passive way. And I think the people should spend way more time into experimentation, because the problem is like whenever you're planning a go-to-market, it can look really smart on the slider, but I think most business person, especially on early stage, the entrepreneurs, they refuse to embrace the reality that the business is chaotic. Of course, having structure, doing research is obviously bringing you an edge in this kind of discipline. It's important because it maximizes your chances to be right. But at the end of the day, there is only one thing that gives you a response, which will be like the actual contact with the market. And this is very difficult to predict, because even if you have like a playbook that has worked 100 times, there is just that one time that it's different, and it's sometimes a little bit complicated to understand why, because there is something about like the universe that is chaotic, and in business
Yeah.
is a little bit the same. Sometimes you have like so little things that actually get to be tweaked and brings results where you would think like this is actually a detail, but then it's not. So I think people should really put way more effort into velocity on what they are trying, rather than spending time in trying to overthink the action. So obviously the research is important, because this way you can you can kind of put together a hierarchy of what are the things that makes the most sense to try out there or not to try out there first. But then at some point, I think people should put a lot of effort in velocity and being very comfortable with the fact that things are supposed to work on the paper, but they won't. And this is just one normal step of figuring out actually your go-to-market strategy.
Yeah, this is the trap where I always tell people if you have double the money, it will take you double the time to figure things out. So don't raise too much money in the beginning.
Yeah.
Actually,
Yeah, I actually get it.
the the fear of running out of money actually will focus your actions on generating revenue, right? Instead of like building the product, building the brand, building whatever the case, like 10
Yeah.
features.
That is true. It's what it's called the Parkinson law, I believe.
What
Like
is the Parkinson law?
the Parkinson law says like no matter how much time you give to something, it will take this time. So
Mm,
if you give somebody a week to do something, they will take a week. If you give somebody a year, it's gonna take a year because the time fills the space. And yeah, it's a real problem that that when we are overfunded or and we don't feel like the emergency to actually take action, the people tend to take a lot of time and tend to sometimes forget how much velocity we can bring in when it's necessary. So I think people should leave and should build process to leave the thing like it is necessary all the time.
mm. So in your experience working with more than 250 companies, what distinguishes those that scale to 100 million from those that get stuck at around 10 million or less?
Okay. So for this, before I answer, I want to make it clear that it is important sometimes when you answer a question to know who you are, what you've done, and what you haven't. I have never scaled myself as an entrepreneur a company to 100 million.
Mm,
I have been working in companies that makes this sort of money, and what I can talk is only the thing that I can observe. I think there is one thing is the companies that tend to keep growing when they start to get too big and too complex, because when you get big, you need to build complexity by design. You need to build process. You need to make sure that people are not doing like random thing and they are following like a whole process. So then the people, they become like more, would say, resilient but slower. And I saw the people who actually really do well in this game, might be scale-ups or even corporates, is the people who are able to build like autonomous teams to actually keep the velocity like a satellite teams to actually address market opportunity and being able to seize like different vertical opportunities and to grow that way. So this for me, I think has been like in what I can observe is a big game changer.
mm, I agree.
Yeah. And also
So,
the quality of the execution in the global expansion. Because when you open new markets, like the opportunity are huge. So the people who execute well their go-to-market, and they tend to do it also with autonomous teams, they tend to have good results on what they're doing.
so what happens to the company that get stuck at like they just go flat at one point?
So I think you have when you go flat at one point, you can try hard. You can try yeah, you can try to grow through new opportunity, or you can get acquired, I guess. That's what I
Well,
would
let
have.
me from my from my observations,
Mhm.
if you go flat at one point and you tried everything that you know and it just keep going flat, it means that you are covered what you know, right? So at this point in
Yeah,
time, it's actually you need to inject some expertise, because I see that there are a lot of companies that they just keep scrambling at the same level for like a year, 2 years, and then they keep going to more conference and googling more, and sometimes like doing more without knowing more doesn't solve the problem, right?
yeah, true. I
Because
agree with you.
in our case, like how we meet It's back in the days, it was the same situations, and I was looking for someone with expertise, because we were like a bit like flatten now on revenue, right? I know what I don't know.
Yeah, it's true. Actually, the way you surround yourself, yeah, I should have mentioned that the way you surround yourself is very important. When I was talking about the corporates who actually are good at innovating that way and actually continue to grow, even they're already like pretty large, is that they're very proactive in acquiring the outside skills to kind of reinforce what they already know. So, I mean, not every corporation is good at that, but a lot of them are. So, yeah, I believe that obviously surrounding yourself with people who have like a different experience and who have been there before and have done it, I think it's very powerful. It's one of the most powerful thing in any stage of entrepreneurship, I think, is like to be good at surrounding yourself with the people who been there before and to pass you to help you pass your limits. That's what you are doing, right?
Yeah, Victor, you are the there's the quote like you are like the 5 people you surround yourself with, right? So I'm going
Yeah.
through a phase where I'm being like extremely like curated with that circle. Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
so from your point of view, what are the first indicators that a founder should pivot the go-to-market strategy completely?
Completely.
Or not
So
completely, but it's some indicators that
yeah, I think it's this is a very difficult question because it brings like so many different parameters. Because sometimes the go-to-market strategy is wrong, but sometimes you have to wonder if to start with your business strategy is right. So once more, it really depends on the stage you are at, because a lot of people, they get like very entitled to think like their go-to-market system isn't working, while actually they have an offer that never have really given proof of anything. So I'm more me. I have like I have a firm belief that the number one driver of at some point the success of a company is the offer, like is the way you actually the way you package the value that you're offering. And if you can feel, because even if your go-to-market strategy is average, like it's not like groundbreaking, it's not like you've been doing that a little bit like a little bit of sloppy work. If your offer is really strong and it's still working, like if you know tomorrow if I want to sell iPhone for like $40, um, it doesn't matter if I'm bad at marketing or I'm bad at go-to-market. I'm gonna find the contact with the market. So I think you start to shift your go-to-market strategy when you have strong reaction to your offer, but you see that you're capping fast, or I think that might be. But for me, like whenever you're setting up your go-to-market strategy, it's this is a work that is constantly evolving. Because the way I see we execute a go-to-market strategy is, of course, it shouldn't be like rigid. Of course, in the beginning, you have a research phase, and you're gonna draw assumption, and you're gonna start to deploy things. But this is alive. It's like a go-to-market strategy. It's not something fixed, because the market evolved, because your company evolved, and as it grows, you need to address like new market pockets and new opportunities. So I think you should always be like pivoting. Like you should always have like a grid of experimentation that you are driving like every week, every 2 weeks. And this is a continuous work that actually you're doing. So the pivot you identify as you grow, because you're constantly testing things. And the wrong way to go about go to market is like you're going to deploy something, it is working, and then you start to feel comfortable and you lay back because this is performing. But what is performing today can move tomorrow. Like the market is always moving. So I think the experimentation is something that we should always drive continuously, if it makes sense.
yes, it makes sense to me when I'm trying to ground it down a bit to specifics. So it feels to me like the way I think about it, it's like go to market. To me, it's acquiring customers, right?
Yeah.
So and as you said, and I agree with that, like And even if I agree, if I go to market and I acquire the customer and the product is not strong enough or the offer is not strong enough, and then I lose them, that would be like a freaking disaster. So first we, like me personally, before I even view a product or anything, I'll view an offer. Like I would try to create something like that like selling that as easy to sell as selling water next to like a stadium before a match.
Yeah,
I'll get it to
I agree with that.
that level, and then I will hone in into like who is the customers, right? And then I will interact like quite frequently with a set of them, like let's say 30 to 100. And it kind of like a conversations. But I try not to go too far in terms of who is my customer. Of course, I will come up with more type of customer in the future, but in the beginning, my experimentation is really to get myself to a point of I can visualize like, okay, who is this person? And then that will inform like all my go-to-market strategy, or advertising or whatever the case. Because if I'm not clear, like who am I speaking to, and they will buy this and they will use it and they will love it, and they will refer to someone else, then it's gonna be a waste of money and time to go to markets, right?
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Yeah, the offer is the rhythm and drive, and also the offer is gonna determine is when you're it's like when you're born, when you're born, we say that your height is determined at the moment you're born. So we already know how tall you will be, and this cannot change. And I think this is the same thing with the offer. Is at some point, the offer will dictate how far you can go and how big you can grow. And once if you're not in the right vehicle, it doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter how much effort you put, is you're gonna just be stuck there. So that's where actually like expanding the vertical is interesting when you cap with a certain offer. But yeah, so this is gonna be the main driver always.
I've repeated this statistic like a broken records, but 42% of startup dies because they build a product that no one needs. And this is statistic, but in my personal experience, I've seen uh, my friends, like dear friend, very like credible friends, they can easily like burn through 8-10 million, sometimes more than that of capital to build out a product with some very firm hypothesis that this thing will work. And then it kind of trap them in this dreamland. And then when the market hits them, and then it can easily like pan out for 5-7 years when you just like keep building the products and it just doesn't work, and cannot like sustain or scale the company, or just die out. It's a very slow, painful process,
Terrible.
and it just intuitively doesn't make sense to me, but it happens a lot.
Yeah, but I believe that so this is for me. I don't even talk about this because for me it should be something that every entrepreneur already has acquired knowledge from like years and years. Because like years ago there is this book like the Lean Startup that came out, and for me since that day everybody should understand that you except if you're doing something like some very groundbreaking technology. Like I was talking with a guy just before who is doing like a quantum computing. So obviously, you cannot like fake it until you make it with quantum computing. You have to do quantum computing. It's very complex. It's a deep tech. So whenever you're working with deep tech, this is a very different type of animal. But whatever is like a software, I don't understand how people even get their first foot into development if they haven't tested the traction on the market of their hypothesis. Like because literally it can take 6 months, a year. I mean, now with no code you can do it faster, but I will take like the traditional development cycle of like a first product. Like some people who develop a product for 6 months, for a year, for 18 months, and then they start to sell it. For me, it sounds crazy actually. It's like because the main thing is that if you don't have a client, you have a hobby. You don't have a business. You're not an entrepreneur. You just have a hobby. That's what you are. So I really don't understand how people can still like in 2024. I'm sorry if I heard some sensitivity, but if you're still doing that, you really need the wake-up call. I don't understand how you don't test the market traction before you even put on the work. If I take you the startup studio, how we do it. We have like a very lean way to validate each project because we don't want to waste money on things that don't have market traction, because no matter how good is your product, if it doesn't solve any problem, nobody will buy it or nobody will stay. So first, we're going to analyze the market. So we have a specific method to do a quick market research to address opportunities. And then from there, we're going to ideate an offer and we're going to test the offer in the market. We're going to pretend the product exists and we're going to try to acquire a customer on the waiting list. And if the customer on the waiting list are actually if the cost per acquisition it makes sense, if we can detect that there is a signal of traction, then we are going to build an MVP no code. That's going to be like very one core feature that is, it's okay if it's not perfect in terms of design, but it needs just to deliver the core feature perfectly. And then we're gonna move the waiting list to the paid version of the MVP, and we also are going to start acquiring paid user. And then from there, we do the work to test like new features and we call the product. But if I cannot sense that from day one there are no people who actually try to get in my product and are very excited about my product, there is no sense for me to spend time, because the problem of entrepreneurs is like sometimes they live in their head and they always try to optimize something before even being in contact with the market. But if you optimize something about your idea of but these are just assumptions, like they have no grounded reality. Like you just have conversation with yourself. And the problem is like what seems to be optimized for you maybe will not be received by the market. Maybe what is important for you, people broadly don't care. So you need to get in contact. Like the first thing you should do. Like I don't even understand why we would raise more than $10,000 to test an idea on the market. Right now in 2024, with $10,000 you can test an idea. Like that's for me it's a nonsense at our era to develop product without testing them.
I think what get lost in translations is like if we go back really go back in time, the venture capitalists are the people who fund business ideas that are like the deep tech. It's needed for the evolution of the society, but it's so new that it's and advanced that it's those companies cannot get funded by banks.
Yeah.
But right now, there's like this stream of thinking that you can have an idea and you go raise the capital and then let's see how it goes. And I mean, you can do that if you are experienced.
Yeah.
Like experience here means that that you go and test the market first and see how it goes. Or I mean, if you sell like if you create like a business, but it will fit into some category, like it's called like necessities, right? Housing, education, whatever the case. But some of the other, like unconventional ideas are just new, or just like in your word, it's just like in someone's head because it's their problem that they're trying to solve. It doesn't mean that a million people will have this problem, right? So I think what we are getting into and probably what your expertise like fit into everything is to help people to experiment their ideas and see if it and refine their ideas and see if we can create like an offer that will get some traction in the markets.
Yeah.
Commercializations, but very initial commercializations.
Totally. And I think, yeah, as you say, obviously it depends on who. Of course, if Mark Zuckerberg want to raise capital because he has an idea and he really believes in it, of course everybody wants to give him money because the guy did Facebook. So obviously he kind of have a hunch of what works and what doesn't, and he's an experienced person. So yeah, this is a little bit different.
So for companies looking to expand internationally, which means that I would define that their core market is working well. So what is the playbook or what is the framework that you recommend them to follow?
Okay, so this taps directly into what we were doing. So for this is very precise for me. So so there are two cases. There are cases where they already have an incentive to develop certain markets, so they're already identified, or there is the cases or where it's kind of like. So in the case that it is a discovery, we always start by like a market intelligence campaign. So we're going to put into competition several countries to see which countries has the best economic background and also the best like market situation in order to launch in these specific countries. And then after, what we do to identify go-to-market playbook is we're going to list like a set of hypotheses on, okay, what are the different way to position the product? What are the different acquisition channel that seems to make sense in these different countries? What types of different value proposition and messaging that we think could work? And then the idea is to experiment fast before you even like start to open an office and put a representative team. What you want is to make sure that actually there is traction in this market and that is actually working. So then we're going to launch like a remotely experimentation campaign like on different channels. And once we figure out the go-to-market playbook, then we have the traction necessary to staff a team in the given country, and then these people are going to take over the region. And the good thing is like when you do it this way, because from a country to another, sometimes the go-to-market playbook is very different. Let's say that you rely on Google as a main acquisition channel. For a lot of business actually work very well with Google Ads as a main acquisition channel. Let's say you want to launch in Korea, where I am right now. I'm in Seoul right now. The problem is in Korea, nobody uses Google. Everybody uses Never. So you're going to launch you're going to hire your team. And if you're not familiar enough with the market and you haven't done your experimentation, you're going to hire the wrong skills. It's going to take you like you're going to have the time to figure out where you have to pay your whole team and maybe fire some of them. And it's going to be like it's going to be like very very Game of Thrones type of company. So what you want to do first is to identify, okay, this market is actually working. These are the channels that drives performance. So now I can hire the right skills. I know what job offer I should put out there. And the people, when they arrive, they already have matter to start working. You don't have to figure out like what is going to work to pay their salary. They're already here and they're already efficient because you already uncovered everything. So this is how I recommend to go, like very fast experimentation. You validate a country, then you staff your team, and then after you can grow from there.
So in other words, you start like a global expansion squad in the HQ, either in-house or external. They need to have the skill of validating markets, and then let's say create like some very initial tractions in the markets, and then you started like shaping your understanding of how I should structure my team locally and to take it further, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
There is two ways to do this. Either you want to internalize it because you know that you are going to reiterate the experiment several times, and so you want to have like a small agile international teams that are going to uncover markets and that are going to also manage, maybe centralize the management of the different geographic zones. Or you can just acquire this. There are some companies that are specialized on that. We were one of them. Now not anymore, but you can find actually actors who are really specialized on that, and you can outsource this work.
Yeah, it really depends on the companies and what they need. But I would also highlight a point that don't. I think the key of this conversation is don't live in your hypothesis. Don't just assume that your product will work in your initial markets, and don't just assume that because you decide to expand to another market that it will just work. Like that
Totally.
is all like hypothesis. So what are you up to these days? And let's tell the audience.
So right now, you mean what I do with my company?
Yeah.
Yeah, so right now, as I say, we have this startup studio. So we build these companies, we hire CEOs, and we inject money in these companies. So what we work the thesis we work on is obviously AI generative AI centric, like everybody in 2024 and 2025, and we have a belief is that. We have a belief that in terms of what was difficult before was like a bit like the technical part of building like a company. So the barrier mostly when we had a company before they were technical, but now we see that the technical barrier they tend to disappear with the generative AI because right now you can pretty much code like anything super fast. Uh, so what we believe is right now is the expertise in very specific industry that is going to be very valuable because the expertise will allow you to actually manage the generative AI to give results that are very compelling and very interesting. So we kind of we take expert in some certain field and we build like a whole like a system and we turn their expertise into a software through a generative AI. So that's what we are doing right now.
So thank you for sharing with the audience of the show today, and I wish you all the best with your adventures.
Thank Yeah, thank you again for having me, and thank you for the question. They were honestly very challenging, but that was very interesting. That is not just a shallow conversation, though. Kudos to you.